Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for episode 2 of Caribbean Talks. Thank you to our viewers last week who joined the live stream and also liked, shared and commented on our topic where we delved into climate change and the Caribbean. I also want to thank our 2 guest speakers last week, Cyril from Climate Trackers and Nikolai from Aliya Movement, for agreeing to spend their evening with us. I am your host, Avanel Romeo Williams, and this 1-hour online show encourages dialogue and highlights topical issues that are important to the people in the Caribbean. During our 10-part series, we will be discussing topics such as music, food, lifestyle, health, and fashion, all with a Caribbean twist, showing our uniqueness and what it means to live and be in the Caribbean. Again, the pleasure is all mine to take you through today's episode, where we will be talking about gluten-free living in the Caribbean. Caribbean Talks seeks to highlight the interests of Caribbean people by connecting with the diaspora and the wider world through conversations. At this time, allow me to acknowledge and thank our sponsors, Caribbean Insights, an online platform that focuses on Caribbean lifestyle by providing information on current affairs, lifestyle, and political developments across the region. You can visit their website at www.mycaribbeaninsight.com. Also, LRT Media and Business Solutions, empowering businesses and improving people's lives by providing transformative services to clients, primarily in the Global South. Also, ADR Romeo and Associates Consultancy, fostering sustainable development through innovative services worldwide. I'm inviting you to join the live stream. Share it with your friends and networks all over the Caribbean region. Follow us on the Caribbean Insights Facebook page. Like, share, comment, and get involved. Viewers, you are encouraged to put your questions and comments in the live, and we will try to address them throughout the show. So, without further delay, I will introduce guest speaker. Our first guest speaker is Ms. Fadwa Abdul-Ghafur, registered dietitian. Fadwa is a graduate of the University of the West Indies and a holder of a bachelor's degree in human nutrition and dietetics, as well as a postgrad in institutional and community nutrition and dietetics. Fadwa is a holistic health practitioner and a registered dietitian with the Nutrition and Diabetes Board of Trinidad and Tobago. She is the founder of the company Let's Be Wealthy Holistic Center, which focuses on holistic health and wellness, holistic healing and health management, with a special interest in functional medicine, women's reproductive health and wellness, endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids, and polycystic ovarian syndrome. She has been a volunteer and passionate advocate for better care and management for women with endometriosis with the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association, or TTEA, since 2017. Director on the board of directors, as well as WearFit Community Women's in-house consulting, holistic health practitioner and dietitian. Fadwa, how are you this evening? And welcome to the show.
Thank you, Avanel. I know it's a mouthful. My name is a mouthful as well. Every time I have to do a bio, I'm wondering what should I cut down, what should I take out.
But it's quite good. It's quite good to know that you have so much interest. So many different women's health, women's situations out there that some people may take for granted. But yes. The first question I want to ask you is for our discussion tonight is what exactly is gluten-free or a gluten-free diet?
Well, basically, gluten is found in all wheat products. It is what glues the product together. For example, you know, when you need in flour for dough or bread or whatever it is, that stickiness that brings the dough together is actually gluten.
Oh, okay.
Going gluten-free means removing all products that may have that type of substance in it, gluten. Gluten affects your reproductive system. It affects inflammation, increases inflammation. Most people who go gluten-free have celiac disease or high levels of inflammation or IBS.
So gluten can cause inflammation in
Yes, it
certain
can.
people.
For people who are sensitive to it,
Oh,
as
okay.
well as destroy the gut microbiome for those who are also sensitive to it.
Oh, okay. And okay. All right. So a gluten-free diet then is a diet that does not include the wheat products.
Any product that contains gluten. Now, gluten could also be hidden in certain products like processed meats, because you know when you're
Oh,
doing fillers, especially with hot dogs, they add additional fillers to make the wiener. So you can find gluten in processed meats, in makeup. You can find gluten in salad dressings, as well as processed snacks like potato chips. So it's according to how deep you want to go into the gluten-free life. If you just want to stick to the basic types of food groups that may contain gluten, mostly it's the starchy type of foods that contain gluten.
right. So persons who are, as you said, have celiac. Well, how do you
Yeah,
pronounce it?
celiac
Celiac?
disease.
Yeah,
Yes.
they might have to be a bit more like the restrictions are more
Yeah,
for
they have to
persons
be
who,
extremely stringent because this is a
yeah,
condition where, you know, the small intestines is actually being eaten away by the gluten.
okay. But is this new? I feel as if has persons with the intolerance always existed. I feel as if I'm now discovering these type of persons.
There has been an increase in gluten intolerance over the years, simply
Why is
because
it?
of simply because of processing. Because when you
Oh,
talk
okay.
about food security, food insecurity, and the wheat crop, what they're doing now, they're modifying a lot of natural stuff to make it pest resistant. And in doing that, in modifying our food production, you are actually taking away its originality. It will affect the health. The wheat flour that we use today, whether it's whole wheat, whether it's a normal white bleached flour, it's not the wheat that was used 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It has
Okay.
changed. It's not organic because it has been altered so that the wheat crop would be pest resistant and weather resistant. So you find now a lot of people are very gluten sensitive in terms of, um, especially with the stress of today's life, which causes inflammation, and gluten also adds the inflammation to the body. I wasn't always gluten intolerant, but now as I'm getting older and, you know, with current conditions, I am highly gluten sensitive.
Right.
So then you tend to advise people to use flour products that are of original ancient grains. They call these things. These would be things like millet, amaranth. We have spelt, we have kamut flour. All these things have not been altered. So a
Okay.
person can use this.
So they haven't been altered because they haven't
They have
reached that far, or
no,
there's
no. Just not they just have not touched it. These are grains that have been in existence for 1000s of years. So they have not interfered with that crop.
Okay. So let's go into the diet itself. Speaking to a lot of people, there are those that just choose to go gluten, to eat gluten-free, whether is for a one meal or for a short period of time, and then they would go back to what it is that they would normally consume. And then you have, the people who are diagnosed, and they would have a very strict diet, hardly eat out, or if they are eating out, they would ask a million questions to find out, what it is that they are consuming. So I really feel as if there are many different ways to embrace gluten-free living, depending
Yes.
on your circumstance and what it is you want out of the diet. Right. So are there any negatives to going gluten-free? Any negatives that you could think about in your experience to going gluten-free?
Actually, there are. You tend to be nutrient deficient in vitamin B, some folate, because you would find this normally in the wheat products. Vitamin B, you would find it in the husk of the wheat
Okay.
grain. So you find when you're going gluten-free and you have like the oat flour would have the vitamin B. But there are other things that people use when they go gluten-free. They might just cut out starch on the whole, and they would be vitamin B deficient. Vitamin B is needed for red blood cell production, which could lead to anemia if you're not taking a supplement. Because of the fiber in gluten products, in wheat products, people who go gluten-free, which is cut out all sorts of carbs, tend to have constipation because fiber is needed for that.
Okay.
Fiber is also needed to get rid of excess hormones in your body. So
Okay.
excess hormones latches onto it and then it's excreted from the body. Fiber is also needed to get rid of excess fats, which also latches onto the fiber and is excreted out of the body. So you tend to have certain nutrient deficiencies when you go gluten-free. But to counteract this, people who are going gluten-free, they now have to
Yeah.
take a supplement.
So you must take a supplement. Can you change up your diet
Yes, you
to
can change up your diet to add more of the
yeah.
things that you need the vitamin B from. But
Mm-hmm.
most people, when they go gluten-free, they also go meat-free. So
Oh, okay.
you tend to find a lot of people going gluten-free and meat-free hand in hand. So
Mm-hmm.
when you do that, you run into the problem of the vitamin B deficiency. But if you're not going meat-free, then you increase your protein in order to get some of the vitamins that would be missing
Mm-hmm.
from the diet, from the gluten product. You can then use your fruits and vegetables
Yeah.
because there are things like broccoli that are very high in iron, very
Mm-hmm.
high in protein, more than a piece of steak has been proven. So then you could add more of another food group onto your plate to cater for that lack of gluten, that lack of the B vitamins in that food group.
Okay, so the negatives that you mentioned has to do with the diet and how the body functions and the
Right.
deficiencies here. So economically speaking, are there any negatives, to being to eating gluten-free, especially on a daily basis,
It can be quite costly if you're looking to substitute the original flours for gluten-free flour because the said gluten-free flours are very expensive. I went to buy myself a packet of spelt flour and it's like $62 for 1 pound.
okay,
Unless you
okay,
buy your oats and you grind it up and you make your own gluten-free flour from oats, but it must be
yeah.
gluten-free.
What is
But if
probably
you
the
if you're
cheapest?
not yeah, if you're not looking to replace normal bread with gluten-free bread, even vegetables as well, is costly. It has become
Yeah.
costly now. So it depends on your level, the level of gluten-free you want to get into. And it takes
Mm-hmm.
commitment. It takes time because you have to prepare something separate from everybody else.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh the pros and cons. But if it is that you really have to do it because of your health, then your health is more important than cost.
Okay. So I know you also give advice on like ingredients and different recipes for people to try, because like when I try to do gluten-free, sometimes it can get boring repeating the same meals and the same types of meal. But I know that that's my fault, because I probably do not know about, you know, because it's big, you know, the gluten-free space. So if you could, you know, talk about the things that the ingredients, or, you know, is it just vegetables, nuts? You spoke about the different grains, and then even when we know the ingredients, is how do we convert that into something delicious? You know, because I think for me, that's where the divide is. You know, how do you create something that you would want to eat, and not only one time, but, you know, go back to it, you know, and then maybe you can convert those around you, since the feeling of missing something would not be there if you are enjoying, you know, what you are having.
The key to having gluten-free meals is, as you said, making it appealing and tasty. I do my own experimenting. I have made gluten-free chocolate cake. I have made gluten-free carrot cake, and had my children eat it out, and I probably got less than a slice. It's about your creativity. So, and if you want it to taste good, then you have to add things like herbs and spices. You have to probably change your cooking methods. Since you could have vegetables, you don't have to always have to have vegetables steamed. You could add vegetables to your gluten-free product. You could add shredded broccoli to a muffin mix, gluten-free muffin mix. To get the flour, to hold the gluten-free flour, it means that you would have to add more eggs. But that doesn't mean that you can't add some chocolate to make it a chocolate muffin, a chocolate carrot muffin. So it just takes a little bit of imagination, creativity, and effort.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I know you do a lot of advising to, as a dietitian, you know, you would advise people on, you know, what is better for them, or, you know, to deal with a particular situation that they may be going through. Is it important to also include like gluten-free ideas in your advice? You know, at the beginning, you know, you would have said that you know, wheat products can cause inflation in some persons, I guess, at varying levels. So
Yes.
as a dietitian, and we all know the Caribbean diets, so is it important to, you know, try to get people to eat less of the things that we know, you know?
The Caribbean diet is highly 100% gluten. We eat typical Sunday lunch. The vegetables on the plate is like this.
If
Piece of
any,
pie is
yes.
like this, and a piece of chicken is like this.
Yes,
So you tend to have to encourage people to have a little balance and put more vegetables on the plate compared to the big slab of macaroni pie like this. So it's all about you have to assess the person to see where their health condition is. Whether you have to completely take them off of gluten, or you have to put them on a highly plant-based diet to kind of bring down the inflammation. It all depends, because you can't broad brush one treatment for everybody. The most you could encourage Caribbean, because I have done health fairs where I have to literally show them a plate and said, this is how your plate should look. Half of the plate with vegetables, divide the next half of the plate into starches and protein. So it's about encouraging Caribbean nationals to go back to the days of our great grandfathers, our grandfathers, where we used to go outside and pick whatever, dashing bush. You might have some bodi, you might have some spinach, and all these things could be added on the plate to increase the vegetables, which will decrease the inflammation, and also it will decrease the amount of gluten we put into our bodies on a daily basis. Because we love bread, We love roti, and
Don't we?
we love
Yeah.
everything. We love everything starch. But on the
That's
same
true.
page, we can also substitute these kind of flour-based products with our very own ground provisions, which
Mm-hmm.
are gluten-free,
Naturally.
naturally gluten-free. You can make your own because we have gluten-free products, plantain flour, breadfruit flour, sweet potato flour, and these kind of things.
So getting these different types of flour, the different types of grains to satisfy a gluten-free diet, in your experience in Trinidad and Tobago, is it easy? We know it's a bit expensive. Is it a bit easy?
Well, now I'm seeing that a lot of supermarkets are putting in a health section. So when you go to that
Right.
section, you tend to find a wide range of gluten-free products, including crackers and rice cakes and these kind of things. So
Mm-hmm.
it is now being commonly available because we have a lot of local artisans who are now producing the gluten-free flours from our local ground provision.
Yeah.
But it's, as you said, it's cost and quantity
Mm-hmm.
because it tends to be expensive and the quantity tends to be a little, probably 1 pound, half a pound, depends on the type of flour. Because it does take a lot of effort, time to process this, not process it in not in terms
Mm-hmm.
of bad processing, but to transform it from the ground provision into the flour.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a Facebook question where someone is asking, how do I know if I am gluten intolerant? What symptoms, or how would I know?
Well, you see, gluten intolerance appears differently on everybody. Some people may be constipated after they have something that is highly glutinous. Some
Mm-hmm.
people may have diarrhea because it would have affected your bowels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some people may break out in rashes on the skin, so you tend to have to go and do a test. So you now have to look and observe what your reaction is to that gluten product. And the only way you can know, one of the ways you can know as well, is to remove it from your diet for about 2 weeks. So you
Okay.
do some elimination, you remove it, and then you put it back into the diet gradually. And then you kind of compare how your body was before. Gluten also gets you all bloated. After you eat it, you tend to see, well, okay, I wonder why my belly looking like this, or you put on some more inflammation, you find your pants leg a little tighter than just before you ate the roti or 2 hours before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it means that something is going on there with the meal that you just had.
So for people who are really intolerant, buying, like, going to the supermarket, is there any particular ingredient listed at the back would be helpful for them to identify gluten in a product that they may be interested in purchasing?
Sometimes some products actually say it to the bottom of the ingredient list.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to see they put this product contains egg, gluten, wheat, whatever it is. Once it contains wheat, it would have gluten in it. But there are other scientific names that kind of mask the gluten, and most people would know. What I can do, I can always provide you all with that list, and you can share it with your audience.
Yes, yes, that truly would be helpful. The commercial gluten-free companies in Trinidad, I recently saw on social media, for example, Hadco, and there are also small businesses that do not only the flour, they actually do the whole package, but it's add water,
Yes.
pancakes, waffle, stuff like that. And what is also interesting is that they use locally sourced sweet potatoes or cassava, etc., and create these ingredients for persons wishing to no or low gluten diet. What do you think about the our commercial um products here? You know,
It's actually good, because really and truly our bodies adapt to our region.
Mhm.
Although we have a foreign palate, our bodies our bodies do not have a foreign palate. So we find when you come and you eat local stuff, your body is very happy with you. So the fact that we have a lot of artisans now producing these things, making it available from things that are grown from the earth in Trinidad or in the Caribbean, means that it is good for us. Compared to the foreign packaging where you have a lot of additives for shelf life.
Yeah.
If you have something that's done locally, yes, you would have to put something for shelf life, but it would not be a lot of additives like foreign-based products that have to take that long journey from wherever to come to the Caribbean for us. So it tends to be organic. Once they're not using a lot of chemicals, it tends to be organic, which is always good.
Yes.
It's locally available, so you know it's not going to have a shortage because you could go and grow sweet potatoes in your backyard. So it is a good thing to use our local products. It would help our bodies and it will save our pockets as well.
So just to, wrap up a bit, what advice would you give someone who is interested in, embracing a gluten-free diet, who is interested in doing the transition to a gluten-free diet, no matter if it's a day, a week, a month or two, or want to make it into their lifestyle, what advice would you give to that person, believing, as I once did, that, a gluten-free diet is something foreign and it is unattainable?
First, I would say, I would ask them, why do you want to go gluten-free? What is your reason for doing that? Do you have a health condition that requires you to go gluten-free? You're perfectly healthy and you want to make a lifestyle change, know that it takes a lot of commitment. Are you ready to commit yourself? Are you ready to commit your pockets? Do you have a support system? Because going gluten-free means that you need to have a support base at home. Because you may be the only one having to carry a bowl to somebody's gathering with your own food because everybody else is having products with gluten.
Yes.
So it takes a lot of planning ahead, and I said a lot of commitment, because you really have to find the recipes that you're going to use, the types of food you want to go and have. You have to decide how deep into the gluten-free life are you going to go. Are you going to go and search out all the products that have gluten-free with the scientific names and covering it over and stay away from that? Or are you just going to stick to the normal run-of-the-mill gluten products and stay away from those? So it all depends on your level of commitment.
Absolutely. As a dietitian, are we easily convinced to try this lifestyle, to try this diet? I should better say.
No, we're not easily convinced at all. We only convince unless we have a life or death situation. Because I remember telling somebody, I'm trying gluten-free, and they say, I'm not eating no cardboard.
Okay.
You can go ahead, but they don't understand that gluten-free does not mean boring. It does not mean tasteless. You have to have some creativity to make, fabulous meals that will make their normal gluten meal look boring.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, we will squeeze in one more question from Facebook. And someone is asking, if you do not have celiac disease, what are the benefits for following a gluten-free diet?
It will definitely reduce your inflammation. If you are prone to that, it can also help in lowering your blood cholesterol. If you're having gluten products that are high in fiber, like ground provisions, it will help you with that. If you have breakouts, it will help you with that, with your skin. If you go gluten free, it all depends, because it manifests differently on different people. The results
it definitely helps with lifestyle diseases, because
it does help with lifestyle disease. It does help with weight loss and Yeah, weight loss and maintaining a healthy weight.
Yeah, wow. Well, Fadwa, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, you gave us some information. I really liked the advice that you gave for persons wishing to transition, because in my experience, sometimes the change is hard, but what you really need is just to start. And then when you start, sometimes it can become, a little bit easier. So thank you for helping with that, and the understanding of, the understanding that,
and you have to let them know as well too, it's okay to fall off the wagon, but don't stay off the wagon for too long. You need to get back on the wagon.
Yeah, that is very important. Yeah, the consistency of it all. So Fadwa, thank you for joining us tonight, and do have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Yes. So let us move on to our second speaker for the night, Ms. Navia McMillan-Beckles. So for those of you now joining us, you are tuned into Caribbean Talks, our Caribbean-based online show that talks about issues we face within the region. So join the live, like, comment, share, keep your questions coming, keep your comments coming. We are here, we are seeing them, and we would address them as we continue along with the show. So Navia graduated from the University of Lincoln with a bachelor's degree in international business administration. She has also achieved certification in project management and effective business writing skills. Navia has interests in programs related to community development and is the owner and manager of 2 local businesses. Navia literally fell into the gluten-free space purely by circumstance and transferred all of her creative skills by creating a number of recipes that are enjoyed by both family and friends alike. So Navia, welcome to the show. Good afternoon. Navia?
Right. So, so as you said, I never planned on pursuing a gluten-free lifestyle. I never researched the whole concept to say, okay, well, I'm going to do this. These are the recipes. Never. The thing is, I grew up in a household where my mother was very passionate about balanced meals, right? So she did things like she only did juice once per week. And we never did 2 types of carbs in one meal. No. So the traditional way, as the speaker before would have mentioned, your macaroni pie and your rice, and no, we never did that. She did not allow that at all, because she attended this nutrition class and she was taught about balanced meals. So I never grew up eating like that. Even till this day, I still can't do it. Like, sometimes you see people with their lasagna and chicken. Can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it. If you do your lasagna, and I still can't even come to terms with doing lasagna and meat. So when I do lasagna, it's always with soy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's quite different from the Caribbean diet that we know and love.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And as she was just speaking of, Farida was just saying we love our roti. Yes, I love roti, but I cannot do roti with potato and chana and everything in it.
So what's in the roti? What's in the roti?
Veggies.
Wow.
Yeah,
veggies. This is interesting.
So if I buy a roti, it has to be veggies. I cannot do the potato. No, mentally, I can't do it. I won't.
But even if your mom didn't know the word gluten-free or low or no gluten-free, she still created meals, subconsciously.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's how I grew up eating, right? Until a couple of years back, one of my aunts got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer.
Oh, my condolences. Yeah.
And thank you. And I started really reading up about cancer to see what was the cause, and you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and in my reading and research, I realized that carbs played a huge role
Mm-hmm.
in the multiplication of cancer cells. Get into this even more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a child, I grew up planting, right?
Yes.
So it was always part of my life. Even when I went to university, you know, I would look for a space in the people's yard and ask the landlord, can I plant here? You know, so I was always
Mm-hmm.
planting, right? So as I said, coming out of my research and realizing that carbs was a huge contributor to cancer, I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I had to do some major changes, right? So what I did, I started being more thoughtful into what I was planting. Like before, I just liked planting just to see everything grow and see the produce.
So what you planted?
Right.
Ground
So I
provision.
realized that I needed to add more green leafy vegetables. It's very
Right.
critical to combat cancer and most diseases, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went on a journey on green leafy vegetables. So I had a lot of kale, different types
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
kale, collard greens, Swiss chard. Um, I did a lot of beetroot, right? So I did both local, the pak choy, the lettuce. I had types of lettuce, bok
Yes.
choy, pak choy, you name it, because I
Wow.
realized how critical it was to incorporate a lot of not just vegetables, but the green leafy vegetables were very critical in terms of combating cancer.
Right.
So I
So your
expanded my.
ingredients, so you would have planted some of your ingredients, but the
Yes.
ones that the others, if you wanted to change things up, is it easy sourcing these ingredients here in
Well, that's the
Tobago, in
thing.
Trinidad and
So,
Tobago, in the region?
right. So what I was saying is that besides those, I started planting my sweet potatoes. I planted various types of peppers.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was doing now is going back to what we knew, which is the same thing she just spoke about. You know, you're reducing your bill, your grocery bill, and
Right.
two, you're getting healthier products because I am planting at home without chemicals. I didn't use
Yeah.
any
Organic.
chemicals in the
Yeah, which is
garden at all.
important. Yeah.
No fertilizer, nothing. And I realized, I started looking back, reflecting and reading. How is it that we are so sick now? What was the difference between, the generation past and us? And they planted most of their food.
Yes, they
They
did.
ate
Yes, they
what
did.
they had. So in terms of, going over to gluten reduced diet, because I'm not gluten free, I'm gluten reduced, right?
Yes.
Reduced, right? It was critical because, of course, in Tobago, things are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of our ground provision and vegetables is bought from Trinidad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I realized, you know what? Back then, our grandparents used to go outside and whatever they had, that's what they cooked.
Yeah.
So now we are so hugely influenced on what we see on social media in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what we crave, what we desire to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing was to go back to what is available to us. And two, Avenel, what was very important in that decision as well was the fact that I did not want my children to not know the culture and the foods of Tobago.
Yes.
Right? So I remember, like, this is so crazy. One time I gave them a bag of plums. what we
Right.
call the governor plums, the red plums,
Yeah, yeah.
when red big,
The one
and
that they bumps on it. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
those the big red ones. And a lot of children were like, can I try the plum? I've never had a raw plum.
Oh.
That was like, okay. And sometimes I'd give them sugar cane for snack, and they would have the same response. So now I had to pack extra.
Yes.
So that was another reason for accidentally going gluten reduced, because I wanted my children to know what are the foods that are produced in Tobago that is indigenous to Tobago, rather than the commercials that they see on social media, rather than, a lot of the imported stuff that they see on TV, which they would automatically think is the better thing to have, you know? So that
So
was how
what's
I
your
ended up.
favorite gluten-free dish to make? Or
Um,
gluten-reduced? I mean, the whole plate doesn't have to be gluten-free, but
I
the
love wraps. I love
wraps.
wraps. Yeah,
Right. What
I
kind of
love wraps.
wraps? What kind of wraps you
So
do?
flaxseed wraps, oat wraps. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So wraps, I experiment with wraps a lot. Um, oh my
Where did
word.
you learn to prepare this? Are you a YouTuber, like
Yes,
a chef
yes,
YouTuber, Where do you
yes.
learn to prepare these
Yes,
meals?
YouTube, the internet, and sometimes things just pop into your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of my first interactions with gluten-free meals was on this show that was on TLC called Cook Yourself Thin.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yes. So on that show, they would do ingredients replacement. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the first recipes I remember that really sparked my interest was a chocolate cake, and they substituted the flour with beetroots. And
With
that
beets?
beets, yes. So
Right. Okay.
they grated the beets and made the cake. And I was so blown away by that. I
Mm-hmm.
was so blown away. As well as Avenel, another thing that was critical for me as well, why I had to participate in this lifestyle, was the fact that I suffered with allergies really, really bad. And I remember accidentally, I was in a store and a guy asked me, "You have really bad allergies." I know that for a fact because there's a line across my nose from the constant rubbing,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And he
Mm-hmm.
said to me, "You need to go gluten free if you want to get rid of your allergies."
Oh, wow. So there's another
Yes,
reason why people could also,
yes,
adopt a
yes.
low and
So
no gluten
what
diet.
we may think is just seasonal allergies
Mm.
or allergy to dust mites or whatever, he told me it is also caused by gluten
Okay,
reaction. Yes, so it's
okay. That's
slippery.
an eye
I
opener. That's an
Yeah,
eye
so
opener.
I literally would wake up every single day with
Mm-hmm.
snorting, snorting. And I said to him, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I've suffered with this thing so bad that I had no choice but to try it. And it is gluten. Gluten was
Wow.
his cause. Yeah.
But is it more
So
expensive for you? But anytime you decide to do
actually,
gluten-free
no,
stuff? No? Okay.
no,
All right.
because
In your
I
experience?
I do not buy the flowers,
Mm-hmm.
right? I do not buy the flowers. What I would do is just find creative ways of making, stuff with what I have, with our local stuff. So I don't go and buy the flowers that are made and that kind of thing. So for example, if I decide I'm going to make sweet potato waffles, rather than going and buy the sweet potato waffle mix, I would just boil the sweet potato, blend it, add my spices and whatever, season it up, and make my waffles that way,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
So I try to get creative in that sense. I have 3 children. So
Mhm.
going to buy these gluten-free flour
No, that's
is
a
going to
no.
be a huge bill for me.
Persons like persons that really take to the gluten-free diet or the low gluten diet, some of them
Mhm.
actually start eliminating dairy. It has not been your experience too?
Oh well,
Less
we are all
dairy.
lactose, so we yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
oh, okay.
So I had started doing my own milk, doing
What kind of milk
oat
you do?
milk,
Not
oat
this?
milk, oats milk.
Oats milk, right,
Yeah,
right.
using coconut milk as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my children did not grow up on the store-bought formulas.
Oh, okay.
No. So that
So
was a
what was
huge
the substitute? What was the substitute?
evaporated milk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. So
Interesting.
yes. So they all were lactose, and all of the formulas, nothing worked for them until a nurse actually told me to use that. And so I would have done coconut milk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would use coconut milk in smoothies,
Mm-hmm.
right? And make my own coconut milk, use that in
I'm actually
smoothies.
seeing coconut milk, condensed milk, and coconut milk.
Yeah, yes.
Oh my goodness, not evaporated. Yeah, I think it's evaporated. Yes,
Yes,
evaporated.
evaporated.
Isn't that
Yes, yes,
amazing?
yeah. And the good thing is with the internet, you can get your recipes online to make all these things yourself.
Okay.
So
So
in
then
terms,
you're quite impressed with the gluten-free commercial products. I mean, you also utilize them a lot.
no, I don't. I
You
make
don't,
stuff. I
so you
don't.
make the so you don't ever buy the coconut milks. You make the coconut milks yourself. Not ever.
Correct.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
I would make it myself. And that's what one of the concerns people have. Going
Mm-hmm.
gluten-free means an increased food bill. But it just
Yeah.
takes a little time and planning, and you could prepare stuff ahead, freeze and that kind of stuff. So as I said, I'm always searching for recipes, and you can do, I have not tried it as yet, but I plan to do the coconut milk, the coconut condensed milk,
Right, right.
right? Because it's a bit pricey. As I said, I have 3 mouths to feed. So I am always looking for ways to cut cost, you know?
So what do your kids tell you when you give them like the waffles, the pancakes or the cakes or whatever it is that you do? Do they
Oh,
even know that it's a low gluten, no gluten meal, or what is the
the
reception
thing,
like? They're like,
the
oh, this
thing
is so
is,
good, without even thinking about the
right,
things they're eating.
right. So people are always concerned about children and their taste buds, right? But I think that they only know what we introduce them to,
Right.
right? So my children, they love vegetables, right? They would snack on a tomato. Yes, they would eat traditional store-bought snacks, but they also appreciate
Mm-hmm.
vegetables and tomatoes and stuff like that. So it's not an issue for them. And one of the things that helps is if you have them participate in the process. So there are
Oh,
no
okay.
surprises, you know? So they're pretty curious.
Mm-hmm.
At this generation, they are pretty curious, curious people, right? So you have to let them know, right? So I don't ever trick them into eating something. I will let them know, oh, I am going to make flaxseed wraps, or I am adding this. And funny enough, when they make stuff for themselves, they would add those ingredients to their meals if they're making a snack, you would see them go take flaxseed. They may add flax seeds or chia seeds to their cereal and stuff like that. So when they are aware, they would tend to willingly participate rather than if you try to trick them into eating
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but I really like your experience from, a mother, from a person, and also from a person who, have relatives that would need the diet for health reasons. I really appreciate that information and experience.
Yeah.
So Navia, it is time to wrap up. Thank you so much for giving me giving us, your experience with gluten-free, because it really shows us that it is attainable, and it's attainable at different levels to suit your situation and how it is you want to, treat with it. Right? So, I mean, yes, it can be expensive, but as you gave some examples as to, how we can, mitigate cost factor. Right? So thank you again, and do have a good night. So on that note, I want to thank all of our guest speakers for agreeing to join us. I really enjoyed all of the information that was shared on living gluten-free in the Caribbean, and I know many of our viewers did. We want to thank our sponsors again, Caribbean Insights. We want to also thank LRT Media and Business Solution, as well as AD Romeo and Associates Consultancy. Do join us next week, Thursday at 5 for episode 3, live on the Caribbean Insights Facebook page, where we will talk about what COVID has taught us. I am your host, Avner Romeo Williams, signing off. See you next.